Hi, David Burns, Chairman of the English Business Council. I'm sitting here with Tim of F10, and he's going to tell you a little bit about what he does and who he is.
Hi everyone, my name's Tim from First and 10 Productions. We're a production house based here in Dubai. We've been here about 7 years, and we help basically brands stand out amongst the noise.
There you go. So, what are you looking at to do that A, nobody else is doing, or is unique during the current situation we've got at the moment?
I think the problem, and I can't speak for all brands, but what I can certainly speak out is what we're doing. We're finding that almost the decisions and the plans that we're making are changing on a daily basis. Only because the situation really does depend on what each country and each rules which we need to follow. Now, for me, what's a bit difficult is our company leans on a lot of international work and local work. And the international work obviously has been massively restricted recently just due to the travel constraints that we have had as a globe. So we've obviously had to shift and look at ways in which we can do business more locally, service the customers we currently have better, and try to make the shortfall, because obviously we have a certain expected turnover like most businesses do, and when that's affected, then things like costs and your liabilities get affected as well. So obviously we have gone through our phases of concern, and we've got a few plans in place, but obviously as it changes, obviously we just have to adapt. I guess
we've heard from some of the people we've been talking to today that they were ahead of the curve in terms of developing products that have been on the back burner for some time, and then the result of what's happened made them bring those forward and implement them. Has that been the same for you?
Do you know what? I probably would say yes. I think for myself, you mentioned in a previous talk that an electrician probably could have one of the worst wired house, or a painter has the worst decorated house. Indirectly as a content creator myself, and having a production business, we do sometimes not neglect our own content. I meet lots of really famous DOPs, which are cameramen, that neglect even doing their own show reel, and that's sometimes you just get lost.
DOP?
DOP is a director of photography. It's a term for like a cameraman.
Okay.
And you'll find that some people neglect even revamping their own portfolio because they're just so busy,
Yep.
Working in their business.
Yeah.
And very often, and I think that's the case with most brands. If you're very hands-on with what you do, me especially, because I do a lot of shooting and editing myself, you do get swamped up in it sometimes, and you do neglect your own self. So in response to your question, yes, I think certainly with the crisis and the pandemic we've been dropped into, it's certainly it's made me reevaluate how I see the business. It's made me realize a few things. Maybe my profit ratio wasn't as good as it should be. Maybe some assets that I should have developed weren't there. And it has certainly made me realize a few things, but you just have to adapt quickly and get those things, I think, made in time.
Adapting and collaborating seems to be a key message here.
Yeah.
How much effect is the lack of your international business going to have on you?
Well, the problem is, I would say our business very strongly relies on its referrals. We do very little advertising. And we have a lot of really strong connections with OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime, Facebook Watch. We do a lot of work with international crews. So I would say more than maybe 60-70% of our revenue comes from international work. We also have a very big presence in India. So First and 10, my company, originated in India. My business partner, Rajiv Varani, founded it in 1999. Because that company, First and 10 in India, leans on a lot of work from the US, now because of the travel restrictions there as well, that's also been affected. So yeah, I would say we are really looking at a complete shift with how we operate, if this is going to be something that's permanent.
I don't think it's going to be permanent, but I think it's going to have a marked effect on the way people do business. Do you see your business model changing dramatically?
Absolutely. It's made me realize that we need to develop more assets ourselves. We need to be finding new ways to help customers, develop assets as well that protect them online.
Assets being?
Well, we don't really pitch it. We call ourselves a digital asset creating company in some roundabout way. Content is very, it's very versatile. You can have written content, you can have photo content, video content, audio content. And we specialize obviously not in everything, but we do specialize mainly in the video and photo content. So But this content, people think really content's just for social media. And what it actually is a digital asset that can be repurposed and used in many ways. You can use it to train your team. You can use it to create something that would sit on your website that gives an overview to your customer about what you do. It can be used to internally train staff. It can be used to be used in sales presentations. It can be used to help your sales team help sell some business. I mean, it's not like ingredients for food or like a dish where once you've used it, it's gone. It can be repurposed over and over. So we really are trying to change the way our customers view content because it's something that is so versatile.
That's changed my perception of content, because I've always thought of content as being, there's the movie, take the movie, and then it goes into the back of the photograph album. I have photos going back donkey's years. Here, I've got photographs going back donkey's years. And yet, every one of those photographs of how Dubai used to be in the old days is actually, in some small way, an asset. It's something
Absolutely.
that you can use. And I've really never thought of it that way.
No,
And I
it's true.
wonder, there's these websites that talk about the good old days, and they're all over the place. There's lots of them. And they have content that is incredible about what it used to be. I've got a video of Sheikh Zayed driving a Cadillac through the desert. Right. I don't suppose you'd ever be allowed to reproduce it, but it's on Facebook.
That's
it's
amazing.
on YouTube. So it's all there. And I don't think people realise that if they were, or the question is, if people were to go through their archives of video and audio savings, assets, would there be value in that?
Absolutely. It depends on also how you use these assets. Sebastian Bates, the gentleman you spoke to earlier, he has a lot of mentoring from Daniel Priestley, who is one of the founders of Dent. Dent is a really remarkable business that adds a lot of management consultancy. They provide a lot of awareness to what assets are, and they've got this book called 24 Assets, which I've read as well. And they say that every business survives on its ecosystem of assets. You get culture assets, branding assets, market assets, funding assets, etc. So yes, very much like the content itself, it can be used in many ways. You can use it to, like the local government could use that footage to help bring awareness to the public about the way things were. They could use it in a museum. They could use it in advertising. I mean, there's so many ways you can use this kind of content.
It's almost like insurance, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's like the insurance salesman who sells the same policy to the same people year on year because they always trust them and they go back. That's an asset for them.
Of course,
and it's like the commissions that you get from that.
Yeah.
You take the photograph, but then you've got a residual value.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we're trying to make our customers realize is that, when you invest in content, we want to try and make sure that not only do you get your return on investment, but there's a good plan for that content to be repurposed and to have a life span that can extend for many years. It doesn't, like you said, it's not the biggest problem I have is that people pay for a content, it gets turned into a deliverable, and then that deliverable goes online, and then it generates how many views it is, and then it's seen as done. Yeah. But really most productions, and I wouldn't know the exact statistic, but I can confidently say that most productions, 80% of what is shot isn't used, especially like commercials, for example, because the time and the deliverable is so short. You're left with such a huge bank of content, which could be purposed, online for social media. That could be turned into like video brochures for the car. Let's say we're doing a car commercial, for example. So, this change of attitude to the way content is, used and implemented across many platforms, I think is changing, and I think people are becoming more aware. And credit to companies like Dent that are helping people understand that.
One of the things that came out of my discussions earlier was the need for people to collaborate with others at difficult times now. Do you think that you'll see First 10 collaborating with others?
Well, absolutely. I mean, more and more of our clients at the minute are coming to us to get advice on what they can do to help make their business become more, visible online. Yeah. We are at a situation where we do not really know what's going around the corner. This could be a 2-month or even a 2-year thing. And one of the best things I think any business can do is if you're able, and Raj touched a bit on this, if you're able to serve your customer and provide value to the public, then you should do that without any monetary incentive. Because your skill set will really make or break it for someone. You know, we could provide one piece of content today that someone would be watching. It would give them an idea that could almost save their business.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah, you can.
Maybe.
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 Helping people is not a bad thing.
No.
The thing is that we go back to you're helping people, but you're not helping yourself. There are people who are out there now offering services that they should be doing themselves, for themselves. This head in the sand attitude that some people have is not helping anybody. What can you do to get messages out there, or what can a company do to get messages out there to make sure all of their followers are following in the right way?
Well, it's a good question. Depending on the business, I mean, my heart goes out to those that really are in a difficult situation with this crisis. People like, you know, that run events companies, or like maybe a builder, for example. You know, someone that really trade does stop with something like this. But if your business can in any way service someone online, if you are able to keep communication up and still provide that service to a level to your customers, then really the best thing I can say is just invest in content. It doesn't have to be a professional crew. You know, we are a professional crew and we can advise, and I would extend this offer to anyone who watches this video and that would like some guidance. I really mean that, completely with no monetary incentive. But if you do not want to work with a crew, you have got an amazing device in your pocket, which is a mobile phone, which, you know, majority of phones these days can actually shoot 4K video, although be it, yes, it's not great quality. The point is the medium is there. If the message is clear, then people will respond well to it. And if people know that you care and you are providing advice and you're just trying to help serve your customers better, then you know, that's really should be the kind of focus here. You can always upgrade the quality later. The difference between us and a mobile phone, it really is a quality. And there would be a quality difference as well in the planning. Like Raj says, there's a planning, a producing, a publishing, and a promoting part to the content. But, you know, essentially, if you have a mobile phone, you have the ability to do it yourself.
And yet we were told today that mobile phones are soon becoming obsolete for other sorts of technologies, and I often wonder if that's the case, and the Google glasses, will they have the same camera quality as perhaps a Samsung or HP Huawei or whatever?
Well, I mean, technology, you know, it comes around and then it goes back. Like one of my business partner, Peter Fare in the UK, he's an ex-BBC engineer, an audio engineer, and he creates valve amplifiers. So that's considered a very old technology, but he still develops those, and there's a niche demand for that. But they do sell for very good money. And the quality that you get from one of those, I'll be honest, I find it hard to find anything in the market that rivals it. And that's a very old bit of tech. So, you know, I guess it's like you said, the old photographs. I mean, there will be some, and what Raj says about the vinyls, there will be a premium aspect to sometimes.
Talking of vinyls now, because there are people that we know who are almost going back to vinyls because they actually like the sound that vinyls make, because that's the sound they remember growing up. And then we went from that, we went to floppy disks and to CDs, where all of that background noise was taken out. And it sort of detracted from the essence of the particular record. And I can remember having a country western record that had a slight chip in it. And I knew when the needle was going to jump. I waited for the needle. As soon as they put it onto CD, it lost its
charm.
It lost its charm, yes.
Well, that's why I'm a big fan of cars. I'm a petrol head. So I love my old vehicles. You know, I've got a newish car now, but I think there's a lot of character in things that are old, and that's really where the soul is. And you assign it to an older memory usually. This technology, you associate it with either like a loved one, or to a moment, or to a time. And I think that goes with anything, you know, in this day and age, whether it's video, audio, whether it's a book. I mean, I used to love going to the libraries as a kid. Absolutely used to love it. I can remember the last time I went to a library. I don't even know if they're still around.
I think they're still around, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, you also can't ban the internet because you want to keep libraries open. You know, technology is moving, and it's like, you know, I'm not a parent, but I know parents talk about, you know, how much should a child be on their phones. When I was growing up, I didn't have that, but it's a new generation. We've got to relearn almost again how to raise people.
You can go from the sublime to the ridiculous. We were talking about things earlier. When I lived in Harpenden as a 9-year-old, on a Saturday morning, I would leave the house at probably 8 in the morning, and I wouldn't get back during the summer until 8 at night. And my parents had absolutely no idea where I was, what I was doing, we weren't up to mischief or anything. We were just up the woods or in the barn or, and nobody bothered. Nobody worried about you. As long as you were home before dark, sometimes even after dark, as long as you were there, that was the way it was.
If you saw the street lights come on, then you knew you had to get back.
Yes, then you had to get home, and that's how it was.
Yeah, same.
And then people started thinking that this is, children are unsafe, and there was all sorts of weird things that went on in kids' lives that made their parents sort of encapsulate them in bubble wrap, and we've got to get out of that. We've got to give kids, like Sebastian was saying, give them the character to overcome those difficulties. Yeah. But is that the same thing in business? Do we need to do something different that we're not doing now to overcome the current crisis that will go on for a while? The aftershock and the after effects of this will carry on for years. If major airlines go to the wall around the world, once they've gone, they've gone. Those aircraft can only sit on the ground for a period of time before they're unserviceable. Then what happens? Look at the hotels that are going to be empty. Look at all of the hospitality, all of that. There's going to be a knock-on effect for everything. So we need to think differently, and we need to do things differently. And one of the reasons of doing this is to see people's ideas on what the next level is. Where do we go from here? Because at the moment, there's been some knee-jerk reactions by people around the world and governments or whatever. There's been stability. There's been proper decisions made, like the UAE. I wholeheartedly support what they're doing here. But is it enough?
I don't know. The answer to that, there's no way of knowing, because like we said, this could be a 2-month thing or a 2-year thing. And your plans to mitigate that risk for yourself, your business, and maybe your industry changes based on that time frame.
Do you have a disaster recovery program?
I'll be honest, if I get completely, you can't go to work anymore, you can't go outside, you can't do this, and the period is long, I have no idea. No, I don't. I'll be honest. I'll hold my hand up and admittedly say that. I've set out a phased series of decisions based on targets that I obtain, which I think, considering that even till today we are still technically working, but obviously when the country enforces laws where they say you must stay home, you must not go to work, you have to respect those laws. Whether that causes you a financial loss or not, you have to obviously abide that. At that stage, we'd have to obviously reevaluate things and take it as it comes. But I mean, one of the best things I've been researching is to just do the needful that you need right now, and that's try and save as much money as you can, because you may need it. Reduce your costs and do what you can to essentially stand out, and at the same time help your network offer, and also don't be afraid to ask for help as well.
You see, it's when you're talking about standing out, I think of the visibility for me is the most important part. You need to be visible. If you're not visible, if you're not telling your story to the right amount of people, you've got that ratio, haven't you? That what is it, 125? You make 125 calls, you make 20 appointments, and you make 5 sales. I think that's a little bit on the high side, but those are the sort of things that people are looking at the moment.
True. I mean, Phil Bedford even says, and he's a fantastic coach, and he's helped me over the years as well. He says there's no point being the world's best kept secret. So it's very true. Like you going back to the old technology, like my business partner Peter, who's developing these valve amplifiers. That's an old bit of kit. It appeal to a certain audience, but if we're unable to meet people, we've got to integrate new technology in new ways, and e-commerce, and finding ways to keep your message visible and online.
It's what Sebastian was saying about building confidence. Everybody who sells something won't sell it unless they have confidence in the product that they're selling, no matter what it is.
Absolutely.
Whether it's themselves, whether it's a content, whether it's a product.
Well, people buy people, don't they?
Yes, they do. The people buy from people they like.
True, that as well.
So we've now gotten to the stage where we need to review the people that we know, and we need to get people on our side more now than ever before. And the same for them. We need to be on their side as they need to be on ours.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think if you have a good product and you genuinely have a really ethical way of doing business, and you really want to help people, I think you're bound to do well. as long as you're open to always learning, try different things, lean on your network when you're stuck, don't put your head in the sand, but also offer to help at the same time. I think that's probably the best bit of advice I can give anyone.
I think you're right. Tim, thanks very much for that discussion. Tim will now tell you how to get information.
Great, so feel free to search me on any social media platforms. My name is Timothy Fare-Mathews, and my company is First and 10 Productions, but we also go for the nickname F10, which is FTEN.
Thank you for watching.